You're listening to the Raw Honeys Podcast, the place to be real, be love, and befriend. Join Chelsea Fine, Heather Hildenbrand, and me, Amanda Axel. We're real friends who aren't afraid to talk about the raw truth of real life. If you're looking for a group of girlfriends who will support and encourage you when the going gets tough, this is the place to be. Pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, and enjoy the show. Hello, honeys. Amanda Axel here. Thank you for listening to today's show. On this episode, we're going to be talking about modern motherhood. I know we have a lot of mamas or even future mama listeners, but this episode is not only for the mommies of the world. We'll also be talking about the choice to be child-free. And so this is a really big topic. So why don't we start off by sharing our own motherhood stories? Heather, would you like to start?
Sure, yeah. So I have two kids, and I have a boy and a girl. My daughter is now, oh my God, she just turned 15 last week.
Did she? Happy birthday.
Yeah, so
that's crazy.
Cue the terror. So, and my son is 12. So, I had my daughter when I was 20. She was not planned. I was not married. But from the very, very, second I saw the positive on the pregnancy test, there was no question, that I was doing this. There was no question that it was going to be really fucking hard too. This is not a Cinderella story. Okay, guys, this is it was not rainbows and unicorns, but I was sure. And I guess that's important because I know a lot of people maybe were or weren't or whatever. So anyway, and then I, fast forward a few years and I was married and my son was planned. So kind of different sides of the fence on those. But yeah, I had small kids and I survived, and now we're surviving teenage years. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Yeah. Great. Good luck.
Yeah.
What about you, Chelsea?
Well, I also have two kids. I have a girl and a boy as well. And our kids, Heather and our kids are pretty close in age. My daughter is 13 and my son is 11. And I had my daughter when I was 20 also, 21. But she was not planned. My husband and I had just gotten married, just a few months before I had gotten married. And our plan was to wait 7 to 10 years to consider having children because we were both in college. And I was in art school and I was really loving it. and then the pregnancy test was positive. And it was such a surreal moment for me because the whole time up to thinking I might be pregnant and then actually taking the test, I was really hoping I wasn't pregnant because I was in school and I was making progress and I was I wanted to build my career or whatever. And so I was really dreading. I was okay, don't be positive. Don't be positive. And then I looked and it was positive and I had a word just kind of exploded inside my head and my heart and everything. And the word was friend, a new friend. I was immediately excited to meet my child that I didn't even think I was really ready for at that point. And I wasn't ready because it's crazy hard to have babies no matter what. So she was not planned, but that was amazing. And that was so fun as far as just kind of throwing our life all around. And then when she was 7 months old, I found out I was pregnant again, and that was a total accident, and that was crazy. Because those are two very close babies, But my husband and I, we got two little ones, well, two teenagers, and yeah, it's like sailing in completely different waters. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Awesome. Well, we're definitely gonna explore that a little more. So, I have a daughter too. She is a 12-year-old multi-poo, and I love her.
And she shares a birthday with my daughter.
And
actually.
Yes, she turned 12 the same day that Heather's daughter turned 15. Yeah. So we've been mothers around the same amount of time.
We totally have.
No, I don't have any children of my own. But I do want to also say that growing up, my sister was born when I was 14 years old. So I was kind of a second mommy to her. I changed diapers. I watched her, I was, I basically know all of the ins and outs of being a parent without actually being one. So that was a very interesting experience. And now she's 18 years old. And, yeah, those teenage years, they were not always easy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But, for the most part, all of my friends have kids. And by watching you two be mothers and by having my own experience watching my sister grow up, I know that, having kids is such a beautiful joy, but it's also really, really challenging. And something we try to do on this show is encourage, all the honeys of the world to, to be true to themselves and to live happier and more fulfilled lives. So I just want to ask you guys, how do you manage being a great mom and not sacrificing everything that you love? Chelsea, would you like to start?
Well, I personally, and this is a relatively new philosophy for me, like in the last, 6 or 7 years, but I consider being a good mom as being like an example of a healthy woman, really, in a lot of ways. I mean, there's a lot more to mothering for sure, but because it is really easy to lose yourself as a mother. And I think most mothers do. And the lucky ones are able to kind of pull back and kind of reshape an identity for themselves outside of like just mom mode. So it is a really tricky balance, but something that I have seen over and over and over again with my kids is when I pursue a dream or when I take a chance or when I invest in myself, even if they think it's weird, even if they don't understand or they miss me if I'm traveling or whatever, they're always really proud of me. Like I shouldn't speak for them, but like they're fearless sometimes, I think, or I like to think, because I'm fearless when it comes to those kind of things. And honestly, I think at the ages that my kids are now, I think a lot of times they would just prefer that I invest in myself and leave them alone, but it's, so yeah, it's not something I'm good at. The balance, I'm not good at it. But it's something I'm aware of and constantly trying to readjust a little bit. It's mostly just about was the day successful in any way? I will take that as a win,
Yeah. I was actually going to say a lot of the same things as you, well, first of all, when my kids were little, and I think Chelsea probably feels the same way, I did sacrifice myself. You do, it's like, it's really treading water. You're tired all the time. You're just, people are dependent on you for survival. It's a different level. Okay. So
yes,
what we're talking about now is the beauty, the wonder of motherhood that is go brush your teeth. And they do, that's a whole other level we're at right now. That was that, I would daydream about getting to that level. I remember I would just say I can't wait for the day I say, go take a shower. And they do. That sounds amazing. That's better than Disney World. That's so this is we're at a different stage now, but like you said, being that example, because we're at a different stage where they will notice that example. And even if it's not always conscious that they're taking those things away, it's a lot of times it is subconscious, but they are definitely taking those things away. So it is really important to be that example of all these things, of a healthy person / woman, of, of being fulfilled and of practicing all these things that you want them to model, but also just having a life of your own and choosing yourself and showing self-love and self-esteem and all that stuff, is going to trickle over into them being the kind of person who can also find a way to, to have all those traits, and it just makes them healthier. But I would add to what you said about when that's hard is just to be open about what's happening with them, because like that, you know, it's just not always easy. There are times that when I have done things so that I don't sacrifice myself for my kids, because I do believe wholeheartedly now, you know, it took a lot of work to shed off society's guilt about it. But now I believe that being that a good example of a healthy person is the most important thing that I can embody as a mother. But now when I do that and I have to make choices that are hard on like maybe my family or like what my kids might want or whatever, you know, the only way we've navigated it is just to, like I've point blank said, I'm making this choice for this reason, because I don't believe that you have to lose yourself and your identity as a person when you become a mother. And one day I hope you'll make this choice for yourself too, and not put yourself last. And like, they still don't really get it in the moment. Maybe they're still they're teenagers. They're like, whatever, mom, like that's stupid, you know, whatever. But it's important. They won't forget it, you know?
So how difficult was that for you guys to sort of shed society's expectations on what a mother should be? Oh my gosh.
I mean, aren't we still doing that?
Exactly.
Aren't we all three still doing that? I mean,
gosh.
all of us, for our choices, whatever they are, about whether to be a mom or not, there are certain expectations. It's so like pigeonholed. It's like, not only do they expect you to be a mom, they do, right? I'm sure you can attest to that.
Yep. I'm going to talk about that later.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I know. Exactly. We'll get to that. But it's like, not only do they expect it, but they expect that in order to be a quote unquote good mom, being a good mom is only, or even a good dad, I feel like, is really about being physically there. That's it. That's it. Because like, okay, for me, like I was physically there for my kids when they were really little. I was married at the time, and I didn't work, and I was home all day with them. And, you know, my husband, he did work. And so, but I was there. I was physically there. And like, I hopefully also did like a lot of other things, right? Like engaged with them and taught them lessons and stuff like that. But like, that was the main thing, because a few years ago, so I that marriage ended, I got divorced, and, you know, that really started my journey of finally choosing myself and finding my own identity again, which I lost when I became a mom. It became all about sacrificing. Society tells you to fall on your sword every fucking day, right? To be a mom. You fall on your sword. You give up everything. You give up the right to happiness. You give up the right sometimes to safety. I mean, there are women out there that think that they have to stay in a bad relationship that is physical against them, you know, maybe violently so, because a good parent is physically there, right? You don't break up a marriage because then both parents aren't there. And that's the only thing society really harps on, you know, and it's so stupid because so I finally chose myself, and I got divorced. And then, you know, fast forward, whatever, I met someone, and he was in the military, and he was getting orders to somewhere. He got orders to Guam. Not only did he leave, he went the furthest he could possibly get on the globe without like coming back around, right? So it was really, really far. But regardless, it could have been 100 miles away. The point is, like, so then I had to choose, and I had to make this work with like going with him and being with my kids. Like, I wasn't going to bring the kids because lots of reasons, school and education over there and everything. And I was a bad mom. I was immediately labeled a bad mom for leaving. And I actually ended up compromising, and I lived half my time in Guam and half my time in Virginia with the kids so that I could be with everybody and try to please everybody. But still, because I was gone, I was labeled a bad mom by their dad, by my family, by other people, you know, and that opinion shouldn't matter. But anyway, that's just what society labels, because I left. You know, it doesn't even matter what kind of mom I really am to my kids. It doesn't matter that we had this really strong bond and that we talked about it all and that they understood everything and that we were still really, really tight the whole time I was gone and everything. You know, it didn't matter that I was setting this great example of like, well, I'm not going to stay in a relationship that was unhealthy for me and for my kids because of the things that were happening in the house. You know, none of that mattered. Nobody even asked any of that. In fact, when I got divorced from my ex-husband, nobody asked why.
Ugh.
You know, like I was in church all the time still then. And so I had like a church family, and I had my family, and my family is very rooted in church. and everything's so very conservative and all of that, and divorce is wrong. It didn't matter why. I was physically choosing to be somewhere else, and that's what was wrong. So it's the physicality of it. It's like, once I wasn't there anymore, it didn't matter that there was drinking going on in the house and the kids were seeing it, and it was a horrible situation to leave them in. Nobody even asked. It didn't matter. And so, you know, it was really hard. It's a really hard transition because you're on your own. You feel like you are out on that cliff's edge by yourself, having to claim this new belief system. It's not really even a choice. It was a whole new belief system to go, I am worth choosing instead of always putting myself last, you know? And sometimes that even means I'm worth choosing before my kids, you know, because if it's like the oxygen mask on the plane, you know, if you can't put your own mask on first, you're not going to save anybody else. But to say I choose myself over my kids, like there are people listening to this right now that probably are disagreeing with me fundamentally right now, right? Like that was blasphemy, you know, it's like, so it's such a hard thing. It's a whole belief system you have to break and reform to decide to stop sacrificing yourself, because you don't have to be a martyr. Your whole point is to create humans who are self-sufficient and like beautiful on the inside and are going to make somebody else's life better instead of worse. You know, it's really, your whole job is preparing them to be without you. Right. You know, you don't get to keep them. You don't get to keep them. And there was a lot of like, I had to let go of that probably before most parents would, because, you know, most parents, by the time they're 18, we've like broken apart away from each other and let go of each other in a way that you're ready to send them out to the world, I imagine, I guess. And I feel like for me, when I left for Guam for that year or whatever, you know, and then so on, you know, I mean, I'm back now, but like that time away, it really kind of helped. It really did. Even if they don't notice it, it really helped them start to be a little bit more like independent already too. My daughter, oh my God, she's already an adult. Like she can just go live her life. Meaning like, I'm not really parenting her that much anymore. I'm there for her. Like Chelsea said, like friend, you know, and it's been great. It's been great in so many ways, but there was so much you have to break away from in your mindset before all that stuff can happen. It's really hard. It's like the hardest thing I've ever done. So I think that's why we're making this a whole episode, because it's that important to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I really watched you through that time. Both of us did through that time, and it was very much a struggle. So, you know, what was it for you that really helped you to maintain your strength through that whole period? Because,
well, we already talked about boxed wine before this episode. So I'll just reiterate from a previous conversation. You guys, really. You guys having somebody that was like a compass, because, you know, I want to say like the goal is to get somewhere that your inner compass is so strong, right? Mm-hmm. That you don't need outside conditions. Like you know, you have that inside you. And that is true now, but getting there, I could not have done without you guys, because there were so many times that I let other people's opinions of me. I started to internalize that bad mom label. I mean, I'm telling you, like, they would find ways to sit me down and tell me how shitty of a mom I was, like, more than once. You know, it was things like I did have to listen to over and over again. And the kids were being told that too, like that I abandoned them and all this stuff. It was horrible. And so having to like correct that with them and everything. And so there was a lot of times I just internalized it and like let it in, and then I was like kind of believing it about myself. And so I had to have people who were saying, that's not true. Look at my face right now. This is the truth. The truth is you're amazing. Yeah. And I might start crying right now because that's what you guys did. And I couldn't have found my way back. I mean, it's like you're alone on this cliff. You have to find your way alone to this cliff in the dark, in the pitch black, in the fog, in the rain, you know, and you can't do that by yourself. So definitely you guys. And we're all crying now.
Chelsea's crying. Everybody's teared up.
It really is like being a mother is Well, it's a battle every day, and I don't mean as far as like parenting, like just being a female who is in charge of raising children. Like you were saying, there are these crazy expectations, and then there are impossible expectations, yet we all just play the same game and try to pretend like we can actually achieve perfection or something. And I think for me, especially, you know, when the kids were babies and I was very young, like I felt like every day I had to justify almost everything I did. You know, I had to explain, well, this is why I'm doing, like I took my kids to school with me. So I went to ASU, and Kiana was 10 weeks old when I went back to school, and I put her on my back and I went to my lecture classes, and, you know, like, I went to an art class. I did, you know, a live model sketch. And that was very, very weird because it's like I looked very young too. So it was like this young little teenage looking girl with like a baby on her back taking a test and stuff. And I, you know, I had to constantly answer questions like, well, why are you at school? Why are you at school? You just had a baby. And that just seemed preposterous to me. Like I couldn't, I think here's the difference. Here's the problem that I had, just like in the gut as female or whatever. I've always been a dreamer. Like one of my very first memories is me looking up at a window and trying to imagine how hard it would be for me to fly and fit through that window, like seriously contemplating it. And so my dreams are, they are who I am. They are my identity at any given time. And so, and having kids was a dream of mine, honestly, like way more so than like finding a guy, although I did find a guy and I'm totally in love, but I didn't really care about that when I was younger. But for some reason, when I was like 13, 14, 15 or whatever, I really wanted kids for kind of like that companionship and that bond and that tribe kind of thing. And they were a dream of mine. And so like, I don't know. So taking my baby to school with me was not even like, it wasn't even a question for me. Like she goes where I go, you know, but I felt like I had to constantly justify why I was doing it, which is so silly because my husband never had to answer that question ever, you know, and he took Kiana on his back every once in a while. We both went to ASU, you know, and like he never had to answer that question though. But I had to answer it all the time, and I had to answer it to women, to other mothers, you know. It was, for me, it felt like there was just this constant resistance, and I would clear a path, and then tons more stones would get in the way. And it was like, I felt like it was like the women in my life who should have been like my allies and like my defenders were, you know, were creating like the most insecurity in me as a mother. And that, yeah, insecurity, that was a huge thing for me. Cause you know, I was young myself. It doesn't actually matter how old you are when you have your first baby. You don't know what you're doing. Like, I don't care how many books you read or how many like TLC shows you watch. Like, it's a creature that you bring home from the hospital without an instruction manual at all. Like they just let you leave the hospital with your baby. Like, they don't make you take a test. Like, you just get to go home. It's a really big deal, you know, and, so it doesn't matter really how old you are. You're just kind of clueless and you're floundering, you know, in like this, what decision am I going to make now? And really the only thing that I had at the end of any day was my instinct, you know, like giving up art school wasn't an option for me. So my baby's going to go. And, you know, what I feed my kids, I really did not care what people had to say about that because, you know, they didn't have to feed babies 3 times a day at my house. You know, I was in charge of that. And can we talk for a moment about how we as mothers, young mothers, when our kids are little, we are expected to make these very perfect decisions in a very structured way. And we are so sleep deprived. We are so, like, we have no happy chemicals left in our brain. Like, we're run ragged. We're usually underappreciated for the amount of like upkeep and work it takes just to keep little human beings alive, you know? But we're supposed to operate at this like optimal level somehow. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Like, I was like 23 and I was like carrying Kiana and she like threw up and I just didn't even care. It like fell in the grass. And I was like, this is just what we're doing today. We're just going to throw up in the grass because it's hard, but I love you and you are safe and I'm going to take care of you. Like, it's just madness. And it's like something that we should be able to turn to pretty much anybody to get help or support from. It's almost the opposite. It's like all eyes looking to criticize. Which I know is not the intention probably, but it just makes it hard to trust yourself as a mother, you know, like you were saying, like hard to become, to grow into who you are as a mother. And
because you know, it's a cycle, and it's a cycle that needs to be broken, because like all of the women who have come ahead have perpetuated it, and then all the women that come behind see it, and then they sort of accidentally perpetuate it. This let me create this image that makes it look like I have it all together so that nobody knows I don't. But instead, you're projecting this image of like, I have it all together, so should you. And if you don't, you should feel like shit about that. You know, it's like, I don't think they, some of them, I don't think they realize that's that's like the image that they're projecting. And so like one of the funniest things I found that like, just makes me feel like I'm not alone about all this now is I follow a couple of accounts on Instagram that are like mom accounts. And one of them is called Scary Mommie, and it's hilarious. And the other one is called Sometimes Kids Are Dicks. And it's hilarious as well. Awesome. And they post things that it's like, even though my kids are older now, I remember that I'm like, oh my God, this was my life. I'm not alone. And like the one I saw this morning was, am I a perfect mom? No. But do I wake up every morning and intend to be a perfect mom today? Still no. Like, like just let it go, you know, just let go of all of those expectations and putting all that pressure on yourself. But like, and it seems like so simple, but when my kids were little, I didn't have this group of girlfriends that I was being so real with. And I just didn't have anybody come up to me and say, you know, it's okay if you don't have it all together, right? Nobody does. Nobody said that. And even though it shouldn't take that, because that seems like such a simple, stupid thing, that might have been all it took, because I just never thought that. I just always thought like Chelsea, like, oh, you know, all this pressure to keep it all together or whatever. Right. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Well, and it's impossible.
Right.
It's ridiculous. We are conditioned to try and achieve something that is unattainable, and then we just feel shitty. And then how are you supposed to be a good parent?
Right. Well, and then the irony of it all is like they give you this perfect little box you're supposed to fit in. That's the right way to do it, which you could never live up to, but you're supposed to like kill yourself trying. But then the healthy way to do it, you do that instead, and then they still want to crucify you because now you're selfish. First of all, you're selfish, right? Because you're choosing yourself, and you're a weirdo, or you're different, or you're just not being a good mom or a good person. Like, you get thrown under the bus no matter what.
Yeah, really, you do. You really do. Like, just expect to.
Yeah.
Which is sad. It's a really sad reflection of like our society, our culture or whatever. But like, you know what though? I do, when I interact with like young moms or new moms, I do try to verbally give them affirmation about trusting their instincts, and all you got to do is love that baby. That's because that's all you got to do. It's the best parents in the world are the parents that are authentic with their kiddos. You know what I mean? And the children feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember one of my best friends who was really close with my mom, saw a picture on Facebook of three of us, me, my sister, and my mom. And she made a comment about what a great mom that my mother is. And she is a wonderful mom, by the way.
She is.
If you're listening, Mom. But anyway, I remember on her post, she asked my mom how she can be such a great mom, or what does it take to be such a great mom? And my mom's answer was, just tell your children that you love them every single day. You know? Yeah. And it's not just the words, it's the embodiment. Like, just love your kids no matter what. And I thought that was so beautiful. So let me ask you guys this, because it sounds like when you were younger mothers, or younger moms, and when your kids were young, you really didn't have anybody that you could really open up to and who got it. Because I remember, I'm going to bring up Sex and the City for a minute.
All right. We're keeping our streak strong.
In the second Sex and the City movie, there's a scene where Miranda and Charlotte are alone, they're having cocktails, and they're both just sort of allowing themselves to say all those things about motherhood that you're not supposed to say.
Oh, yeah.
And they're in tears and they're just, having a drink. And I remember I saw this movie in the theater with two of my friends who are mothers, and they looked at each other during this scene and they shared this moment like, oh my gosh, this is so in my head right now. Yeah. And I thought it was so interesting how, how it's not okay. How did you guys survive without being able to talk about it?
Well, we sort of, I think both of us in a way, I know for me for sure, we sort of, we sort of exploded against that. It's like the way it was the box just kept getting, like the walls just kept closing in further and further a little bit. And okay, first of all, I don't want to paint the wrong picture here. I was okay. I got through the baby stuff and I didn't kill him and it's cool. And I'm figuring it out and I'm feeling more confident. And so it's okay. It was okay. There was still in the back of the background, there was always that perfect mom. I think now they call it the PTA mom image. If you guys have ever, what was that movie? Bad Moms or something? Yeah. With Mila Kunis? Yeah. Oh my God. Hilarious. Even if you're not a mom, but it had the PTA mom image in it. And it was so so relatable because that's the image that society is giving us, right? That we're supposed to try to attain. That's she has it all together and perfect. And, so in the back of my mind, there was always that, but I do think that once it came to a head where I had to make a decision about my marriage and there was a real fork in the road, and then it really came crashing down on me weighing if I make this decision about my marriage, that means that my kids will have to go back and forth. They will be a divorced family kid, and this is a whole new lifestyle. And is this the right thing? And I already knew immediately what society would say, right? No, keep everybody together no matter what, be physically present. And so that is when I think the walls just started to close in more and more. And so there are two choices for every woman in that situation. And a lot of women have been or are in that situation right now, mentally, emotionally, maybe physically, that they are at that fork in the road, and that the two choices are they accept it and keep going down that road. But and that sounds almost that's just status quo, but it's not, because that's a giving up. So it changes her for the worse, right? It crushes her soul and her spirit and makes her never choose herself again. And it saps all the joy from her life. And and I know because I felt I was looking down that road. I was at that crossroads and I was looking down that road and I was I will be a shell of myself forever if I keep going this way, or I go this way. And I do choose myself, and that's super brave and super scary, and I don't know how I'm going to do it, and I don't know how I'm going to, all of it. There's logistics, there's, I don't know how I'm going to pay for it, I don't know how, all of this, but, it's I exploded against it. I just, exploded the walls, and just was fuck it. I'm doing it, because I couldn't stand the thought of the other direction that much. But I think a lot of women aren't there. That's just, a lot of that was my personality. A lot of that was the way my parents were with me. And I made a vow before I ever thought I would have kids that if and when, I was probably a teenager. I know I was a teenager at the time. And I was saying if and when I ever have kids, I'm going to be exactly the opposite of this. And I know all the ways I don't want to be a parent. And that's why I'm so about telling them I love them every day, all the time, a million times a day. I tell my kids I love them. And we talk about everything and we're really open. And so my personality is a rebel, very strong, very I'm doing this shit my way. Don't tell me what to do. Don't try to put baby in a corner. That's my personality. And that other road was the corner. So I couldn't. But a lot of women choose that way. And that's really sad. So
yeah, what's really interesting is when we started this topic, we were talking about modern motherhood. And I was just thinking, as we're sitting here talking, the way that we operate as family units now is relatively new, I think. Totally. And, for thousands or millions or however long, we have that tribe, like it takes a village, right? That's where that phrase comes from, because it was a literal village of people taking care of kids. You had more kids, you got big ones to do other stuff for you and help you with the small ones. Like, it doesn't all fall on one person. Daddy's not away all the time, or if he is, there's plenty of other people to help out. So, nowadays, where not only is it just you, assuming that you live near no support system, like a family or even hired help, and on top of it, most women work today. You really can't, it's very hard to afford to live a decent life without a dual income household, right?
Well, not to mention, regardless of the finances, like, I think we all feel very strongly that even regardless of how much money we earn doing it, we're very passionate about our work because we do what we love.
Right.
So no matter what, we still want to be doing those things. And that goes back to like when we were sacrificing ourselves before, and we're not anymore, because now we are doing the things we love, even though we know it means we're not the stay-at-home mom anymore. But what you're saying it reminds me of your sister and you, because so this is new, but we're bringing it back around, right? Because it used to be a thing. It used to be, even in like biblical times, or, like thousands of years ago, when like even when like men had more than one wife, and I'm reading a book right now. I'm reading the Red Tent book. That is a whole other, so that's a whole other conversation. That's super exciting. If you don't know what the Red Tent is, you guys should Google it, because I was exposed to a group of it in Florida before we moved here, and it was amazing. So much like sisterhood in that. But it's based on a fiction novel, and and the novel is based on a biblical story. Okay. And Rachel and Rebecca, who married Jacob, and if you know the story, so the story, this fictional story, focuses on the daughter, one of the daughters, like the offspring of the I don't think it was Rachel's daughter. I think it was one of the other sisters. But anyway, and what it was like growing up in this like community, which was a family though, but it was such a big family because with all his wives and all their like help, that because they ran like a farm and stuff, that like all the kids and all the women like just helped raise each other up. That's just how it was. And I think that's where the It Takes a Village really comes from, is like societies like that, where there is always a lot of community. And that's kind of how it was for you and your sister, where you helped do so much of like raising her, like physically and emotionally. And you guys are so close because of that. I know you are, right?
Oh my gosh. I call her my heart. Oh, she's my heart. And so that was very,
And I think there's there's so much strength and value in that, because it's so, like society tries to paint that picture to us subconsciously, but if anybody tried to say that to you, like verbally right now, like, no, you have to do it all. You have to raise your kids like perfectly, right? You have to always look showered and like amazing all the time. You have to find time to work out. You have to eat healthy. You have to feed them healthy. You have to grocery shop. You have to run a successful business. Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Well, I guess you're going to do all your employees' jobs yourself then. And you're going to find time to please your husband, because let's not forget, like, that's just also still our society is like, whatever he needs, right?
Your wifely duties.
Yeah, exactly. and but don't ask for anything. It's whatever he wants, and all of that. And then like be on the PTA and like run this bake sale and like whatever, all these things, right? And that's if someone were to say that to you, like you would just laugh. You'd be like, like you're drunk. Like nobody can do that,
Right.
And of course you can't. And that's where this community and tribe comes in, is like they understood inherently that everyone has strengths, and that the feminine like archetype is nurturing in general. And that does not always mean that you have your own children. But like Amanda, my kids love Amanda. My kids,
I love your kids
a
too.
lot of times.
I love your kids too, Chelsea.
They like Amanda more than they like me a lot of times, which is totally fine. But it's a benefit, because there are times you don't want to go to your parents. You remember even like as a kid, like there are times that it was easier to go to like an aunt or a friend or something other than your parent. And that's why, because that's where that value of that community comes in, is having other people to help prop everybody up.
Right. Yes.
And I actually got to be raised in a community like that. Just the nature of my family, my upbringing. My grandparents my grandma is the matriarch of our family, and we definitely off and on lived with my grandparents and all my cousins on like a piece of land in the desert. It was beautiful and very ideal. But what was so incredible about my upbringing is that my grandmother, who was a homemaker, and she took care of everybody's children, me and my sister and all my cousins, and she took care of all of her own grown kids that lived in this house with her. And she was patient, and she said, "I love you" every day. And she fought for us, but she fought with like that quiet kind of like determination from their generation, you know, real tough, but like firm, but like they got it, you know. And then my mother is amazing. My mother is so amazing that it was actually really intimidating for me to have a child of my own, because there was no way I was going to be as flawless as my mom, or at least in my eyes. You know, same thing, just nurturing, took care of us. But what's really lovely when I look back is that my grandmother, who was a homemaker and went to a few years of school and stuff, she silently and quietly and diligently kind of fought and for my mom to kind of pursue who she was and to pursue dreams. Like my mom chased a dream when she was younger, and she would do anything to give my mom opportunities that she herself didn't have. And then my mother did that times 10 for me, like over the top, over the edge, as far as like watch my kids whenever I need something, or watch my kids even if I don't need something, just to give me the 45 minutes of sanity. And so I got to be raised in a hierarchy of really hardworking women who have been slowly climbing up a ladder, and like they kind of like got to lift me up, you know. It's just so really beautiful, you know. And I'm really excited to hopefully be able to provide something of the exact same thing for my daughter right now. I mean, that's exactly what I'm trying to do, you know, like open as many doors and windows and give as much permission as possible so that she can be as fearless as I was, and even more so because she's got me and my mom and her grandma, you know. Like, it's just, there's something really magical about women who believe in each other, and you don't have to be related at all, for sure. I mean, the three of us are, you guys are my family, you know, but it's, magical is kind of a fluffy word, but it's perfect, because there is something like, you are healed when you know you're in the hands of women who care about you and who are going to fight for you, and they're going to fight by you, you know. Like, it allows us to do things that our society would otherwise want to condition us to shy away from, you know, or put us back in a box, you know. But oh my goodness, look how amazing when women come out of boxes. Look at the stuff we do, you know.
Right.
I'm sorry.
So true.
Yes.
So true.
So why don't that's a lot about motherhood, and I think we've barely scratched the surface. So there's probably going to have to be another episode on this topic. But I want to talk a little more about the choice to be child-free, because we haven't been able to reference for those listeners who have chosen not to be mommies, you know?
Yeah.
And so as I mentioned, I don't have children. That is completely by choice. As Heather mentioned, her kids love me. I love kids. I love her kids. I love Chelsea's kids. I love all kids. I have a real respect for children, actually. I never talk down to them, you know, like I always really see them as individuals worthy of respect. Like, even when they're two, you know what I mean? And just meet them at their level, you know, cause kids are they're so beautiful and smart and intuitive and creative, and they're just fascinating. And we definitely need children. I'm just not going to bring one to the world as far as I know. Right? So, but, you know, my entire life, I never wanted kids. Even when I was a little girl playing with baby dolls, and I love my baby dolls. They were named Brittany and April, and they were super cute. I knew I was just playing pretend. I knew that was never going to be my real life, you know? And then as I grew up, people would say to me all the time, oh, you'll change your mind. Oh, you'll change your mind and change your mind. Well, now I'm in my early 30s, and like that you'll change your mind thing is not, they're not saying that as much anymore. They're like, oh, okay, well, you still have time. You still have time. Yeah. Like, I still have time to change my mind. And I know there's so many women I know who, when they turn, I don't know, anywhere between 29 and 31, they're like, I don't want kids either. And then all of a sudden I woke up and my biological clock started ticking, and I'm almost 33, and I keep waking up, like wondering, is my biological clock going to start ticking? And honestly, you guys, I don't think that I have one. And I really don't, because it hasn't. And it's honestly, the thought of it starting to tick scares the shit out of me, because the other thing too is that I am terrified of being pregnant. Like, it's a legitimate phobia. I wish I had looked up the name before we started recording, because I remember Dr. Phil was talking about it, I don't know, back in 2002 or something. There's like a legitimate name for people who are afraid of being pregnant. Yeah. And that's me, because if I ever did choose to have children, more than likely I would have a surrogate adoption or something where I didn't have to carry a being in my body. But yeah, it's one of the reasons. So one of the reasons why I don't want to be childless, other than the fact that I don't feel led to be a mother, I don't feel like I'm missing anything by not being a mother. But I do sometimes wonder if that's how I'll always feel. And you know how it is, as you go through life, things change, and you do things you thought you would never do. You say things and believe things you thought you would never believe or say. And I mean, admittedly, I am concerned about that one day I'm going to wake up 45, premenopausal or something, and have no kids and no prospect to, have an actual baby of my own and feel bad about it. And so a lot of the women that I know who are in their 50s or older usually, and who don't have kids, I find that it's appropriate. I'll ask them, do you regret not having children? Because I always get the sense that it was by choice. It wasn't because of a fertility issue or something like that. And most of them say, no, not really. It just kind of didn't work out that way. And every time I hear that, I just feel relief, because I'm like, okay, good. Even though there's so many other ways to be a mom, like I brought up, adoption or, even surrogacy or whatever it is. But there's something like, even with women who, are really struggling to get pregnant, they pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get IUI treatments and IVF treatments and this and that. Why? Because they want to experience the whole thing from start to finish, really like carrying that life, inside of you. And I feel like that's from my observation, it seems like such an integral part of your experience as a mother as a whole. It doesn't make you any less of a mother, obviously, if you have children any other way.
Well, it's so funny that, you don't know what you don't know on either side of the fence with this, because, there are women who pay all that money to experience it all through their body because they think they want, I don't want to diminish that desire, because they want to feel the whole process, right? But it's like, until you go through the process and then you find out, just kidding, I would definitely pay for that shit to not happen to my body. And like, every woman feels differently. Yeah, did you like being pregnant? Because I hated it.
I would love my children a little bit more.
I'm so glad to hear this.
Yeah.
I hated it. It's awful.
Looking back, it's like, no, I could have easily skipped that part and been okay with it, like. So, but it's funny because until you go through it, you don't know. And some people, my sister, I think she's an alien because she loved being pregnant, and I don't understand that at all. She loves the whole thing, the pregnancy. She just loved it. And I was like, I don't like not being able to see my feet. I don't like my ankles being the size of lampposts. I don't like having to eat weird things. It's like I have no control over it. I don't like there's just so much.
It sounds awful.
It's weird. It's pretty right. But then there are women who are like paying all this money because they want to feel, because words can't teach, only life experience can teach.
Exactly.
So it's like, I don't diminish that desire in them. But what I was going to say to you is it goes both ways too, about how you're worried that when you're 45, you're just going to wake up one day and wish that you had done it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are probably parents out there who, and this is one of those things that we're not allowed to say.
Right, but we need to talk about it.
But we need to talk about it.
And
that's my warning.
Well, because I told Amanda, so many moms are going to be able to relate to her choosing to be child-free because they're going to see a version of themselves in her.
Yeah. Yes.
All those moms who, like, we didn't plan it, and, if I could go back, I would do it differently. Maybe not, I'm not saying I wouldn't have my kids, but, I wanted to be more whole before because I didn't have as much to give until I got my shit together, And so my point is, like, it could go both ways. I'm sure there are women who had kids and wish they could have done that differently or didn't or whatever, and they can't tell anyone that because this is something you're not allowed to say. You're not allowed to say, I wish I hadn't had kids, or I wish I had done that differently, because then you're a bad mom. You can't say that.
Right.
But there are women who are thinking that.
Right.
Well,
right.
And it can torment those. It can torment those moms though too, because some moms who have kids that have the thoughts like, oh, I wish I would have done that differently or something. Like maybe they're not bonded to their children, or they don't get to enjoy their babies, and then they feel like failures as a mother because they're not reflecting the same kind of joy that other mothers are. Like it's just a very it's a downward spiral for just a place on all women, actually, regardless of what you want, what you don't want, what you would change. Like it's so silly actually that we really get into each other's business about childbearing too, because it's like nobody else's business.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I mean, because I'm married. I've been married for a while, and we're in our early 30s and still no kids. And when I get that question, it's not, are you going to have kids, or would you like to have kids one day? It's, when are you going to have children? When are you going to have a baby? One woman actually patted my stomach and said, when are you going to have a baby? And it made me so uncomfortable, mostly because of my pregnancy fear.
You're so cute that you would use the word uncomfortable. Because if somebody ever did that shit to me, uncomfortable is not the adjective I would use to describe my response. Okay? I mean,
it wasn't a hard pat, but it was like,
it doesn't
it was
matter.
an indication. And
women do that when you're pregnant. They come up and touch your belly.
That's so true.
It's like, it's really annoying. It's uncomfortable is not strong.
Well, it's very rude. I think that to ask someone when they're going to have kids is extremely rude, because I have friends who struggle to get pregnant, and some of them have struggled for years. And I can't, and oh my gosh, every time I think about their situation, my heart just breaks, because I think being a mother is such a special thing. And if that's something that you want to do with your life, then you should absolutely have the chance to do that. And so I can just imagine being in their shoes and not knowing, someone else, and them kind of having a very limited, knowledge of your life, say, when are you going to have kids? Yeah. And you're thinking, I don't know, when I get pregnant, I can't even imagine. Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up. Exactly. Yeah. And I feel that way. It's like, they don't know that I haven't been struggling with infertility for 10 years. They have no idea. Yeah. They don't know that I didn't have some kind of a disease where I had to have like a hysterectomy or something like that. They have zero idea. Yeah. So please don't ask people when they're going to have kids. Unless they've said, we're definitely having kids. We're definitely going to having kids. Then you say, when?
Right? That's the only time that question is appropriate.
That's okay.
It's true. And I was telling you this earlier, that I've had people tell me, it was like on a Facebook conversation somewhere, they're moms, and like they might have like 3 girls, and people will come up to them all the time and ask, are you going to try for a boy? And it's so rude. So it can happen on both sides of the fence. It's crazy.
I knew a family once when I was younger. I lived in Navy housing.
Yeah.
They had 5 girls, and she was pregnant again. Another girl.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
6 girls? That poor dad.
Well, I guess that's where that question comes from, because that family did keep trying. So then,
now we moved away. So I don't know. Maybe they kept going. I don't know. Maybe they have 10 girls right now.
3 girls now. Oh my gosh.
I cannot
it's
even
the
imagine.
opposite too. Like, well, Heather, you and I, we have a boy and a girl, and I don't know about you, but people all the time, when I tell them, oh, I have a son and a daughter, they're like, oh, good, one of each, so you're done. Like, like they tell me that I'm done having kids because I've had a boy and a girl. Like, there's, like, I've checked some boxes or something. It's weird that people get into our personal.
It's like collect all genders, you know?
Yeah, I know. It's so strange how people don't think before they speak. A lot in general in the world, right? But like specifically about this, about motherhood, you know? Yeah.
So that was a really great conversation about motherhood and non-motherhood. I think I want to bring that up more on our next motherhood episode.
Non-motherhood.
Yeah.
It's key.
Yes, it is. Definitely. So I want to go ahead and leave our audience with a message from each of us. So I want to speak to all those child-free women out there, child-free by choice. I just really want to say, if you're in that situation where you've chosen to be childless and people are asking you, your mom is saying, when are you going to have kids? And whatever it is, like, just really own it and don't apologize for it. Because I've had that. I have guilt not making my mother a grandmother. I'm so glad that I have my sister. She better have kids. That's all I'm saying. But even if you're in a situation where you don't have a sibling who can give that to your parents, like, please don't apologize for it because it is your life, and enjoy your life. Enjoy not having kids, because sometimes I wake up and I say, I am so glad I don't have kids right now. And y'all know I love kids. And then I want to say, for those people who are child-free at the moment, but really want to have kids and are struggling to do so, please don't lose hope. Because as we talked about, there's so many ways to be a mom. And I think it's really important that we trust the timing of our life. I know sometimes we're all striving for these goals and they don't happen on our timeline, but I think that's very purposeful. So, please don't give up.
And I guess for me, I have lots of messages, I guess, I would like to give mothers. But I think a big one that has been resonating with me, especially in the last couple of years, is that being a mom can be a very fluid thing. The definition of mothering and being a mom is completely up to you. And I'm saying this because Amanda, for instance, you are one of my very, very dear friends. But I also kind of consider you one of my mamas. I come to you when I'm hurt, and I come to you for advice, and I can I can vent, and I can hurt you and know I will be forgiven. It's very beautiful. And for the most part, our relationship is very friendship, equality and stuff, but we slip into different roles depending on what's needed. And so as far as mothering goes, you can be a mother to anybody who needs some love. Anybody who needs a hug, anybody who needs some support. Oh, especially the women out there that are alone, that just need support. Even if it's just a smile, even if it's just making eye contact, or if it's a mother with a screaming child at the grocery store at 5 p.m. when it's chaos, just smiling at that mom and letting her know that you feel her, you see her, that's being a mama to her. We're not just women, and we're not just sisters. We are teachers of one another, and we are supporters of one another, or at least we should be, And so being a mama, you can be a mama at any time, and you really should, because we all need many, many mamas. Many, many mamas.
Yes. I love that.
Right. I know. And I would say, just to add to that, to put on your own mask first, the oxygen mask that we were talking about before, and that because the importance of, this whole message is about finding that community and that tribe where you don't feel like you have to do it all yourself. But really the best way to do that and connect with people is to kind of let your guard down and be vulnerable a little bit and trust that other person's going to do the same. And the only way you can do that and come at that from, a really healthy, safe place is to put on your mask first. That it's okay to choose yourself. It's okay to choose yourself. And that choosing yourself doesn't mean you're not choosing your kids. It just makes you a better mom.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Raw Honeys podcast. If so, please share it with a friend or post a review. Heather, Chelsea, and I would love to connect with you. Check us out on Instagram at the Raw Honeys or join our community of honeys on Facebook. Thanks for listening. We wish you nothing but big love.